In Objectivity and Liberal Scholarship, Noam Chomsky offers a scathing critique of mainstream intellectualism, particularly targeting the claim of neutrality and objectivity, often espoused by liberal scholars. He focuses on how these scholars frequently serve the interests of the elite, consciously or unconsciously, reinforcing established power structures rather than challenging them. The work is an indictment of the ways in which liberal intellectuals, particularly historians and political commentators, selectively present historical narratives that support state authority and marginalize more radical, anti-establishment movements. A key theme in Chomsky's essay is the critique of the notion of objectivity, which is central to the self-image of liberal scholarship. Chomsky contends that objectivity, in much of this scholarship, is largely a pretense, rather than offering a genuinely unbiased account of historical or political events. Scholars often present narratives that reflect the interests of powerful groups. This serves to maintain existing social and political structures by shaping public opinion in ways that align with the ruling class's interests. According to Chomsky, this is particularly dangerous in democratic societies, where intellectuals play a crucial role in framing public discourse. Chomsky suggests that while liberal scholars may not be as overtly propagandistic as those in authoritarian regimes, their subtle biases have a similar effect. The appearance of neutrality gives these scholars credibility, but their selective emphasis on certain facts, coupled with the omission of others, results in skewed historical accounts. In other words, liberal scholarship, which claims to uphold truth and objectivity, often functions as an instrument of ideological control. Chomsky delves into the role of intellectuals in society, accusing them of being complicit in maintaining the status quo. He argues that intellectuals often adopt an elite perspective, consciously aligning themselves with the interests of those in power rather than with grassroots movements or revolutionary forces. This alignment allows them to retain their privileged positions within academia and public life. By portraying themselves as neutral arbiters of truth, they distance themselves from more radical movements that question the very foundations of the political and social order. Chomsky is particularly critical of intellectuals' tendency to present liberal reforms as the only viable means of progress. In doing so, they marginalize or delegitimize more radical alternatives that seek to fundamentally transform society, instead of challenging the structural inequities that underlie political and economic systems. These intellectuals promote reforms that may improve conditions slightly, but ultimately preserve the existing hierarchy of power. Chomsky's analysis of the Spanish Civil War is a crucial part of his argument. He uses this historical event as a case study to illustrate how liberal scholarship selectively portrays political conflicts. According to Chomsky, liberal historians tend to frame the Spanish Civil War as a struggle between democracy and fascism, which aligns with the broader liberal narrative of history. While this framing is not entirely false, it is incomplete. Chomsky points out that many historians neglect or downplay the revolutionary efforts of anarchist, socialist, and worker movements that sought to challenge both fascism and the state. By focusing primarily on the conflict between fascism and democracy, These scholars obscure the broader revolutionary currents that were at play during the Spanish Civil War. Chomsky argues that this distortion of history serves to legitimize state power by presenting it as the only alternative to fascism. In this way, liberal intellectuals present a limited view of history, one that reaffirms the values of the liberal democratic state, while marginalizing those who sought more radical social change. A major concern in Chomsky's essay is the way in which liberal intellectuals legitimize state power. He argues that by framing political conflicts as battles between good, liberal democracy, and evil, fascism, or totalitarianism, these scholars create a narrative that discourages more critical scrutiny of the state itself. In the context of the Spanish Civil War, Chomsky notes that the revolutionary movements of workers and peasants were often portrayed as Celtic or dangerous, even though they represented genuine attempts at societal transformation. This tendency to demonize radical movements and promote moderate reform aligns with the interests of the state. By focusing on reforms that can be achieved within the system, intellectuals implicitly validate the system's legitimacy. Chomsky argues that this is a common strategy used by liberal scholars. Rather than questioning the fundamental structures of power, they propose solutions that can be implemented within the existing framework, thus preserving the status quo. Chomsky extends his critique beyond historical scholarship to the role of propaganda in liberal democratic societies. He argues that propaganda in these societies is far more sophisticated than in authoritarian regimes, where censorship and state control of the media are overt. In democratic societies, propaganda is disseminated through intellectual institutions, media, and the educational system, in ways that are less obvious, but equally effective. The media, in particular, plays a key role in shaping public perceptions of political events and historical narratives by selectively emphasizing certain perspectives while ignoring others. Chomsky's point is that the illusion of free and open discourse in liberal democracies often masks the underlying forces of control. Intellectuals, as part of this system, help to shape the dominant ideology, which serves to protect the interests of the elite. By presenting themselves as neutral and objective, they maintain the appearance of scholarly integrity while reinforcing the existing power structure.